Blessings to all. Share this YouTube for everyone to see and kick the neck.
4. Chula A. Setti Jatak. Apakathapi medhavi pahathina vichakhano samutha pethi athathan, akhum ajiva sandhamanti. And the Lord Buddha, Tiluguru, who was the descendant of Surya, resided in the mango garden of the living because of the city of Rajagaha. Chula A. Sethi Jatak. How is that? The days when a princess who was the daughter of Mahadhana Sita living in Rajagaha lived in friendship with one of her servants. It would not have been done if someone else had seen this fact. Sita scared and told that man that we both are not allowed to stay here. If my parents had seen this mistake since then, it would not have been possible. We would have broken up and thought of going to another land and said that it was Vasmhai. As a result of their relationship, which was close to one another, the princess was pregnant with a child. O Tomo, when the child grew older, talk with Vallabhe, and the child grew older. Having a child at the age of 3 without family ties is painful for both of us. Therefore, the village of the parents was called Yamai. That man today, Satyr exclaims loudly. At that time, the princess thought that this foolish man would not try to go because his fault was great. Parents want children to work. So what is he, or what? It is suitable for me. When that man left the house, I left all the pillows, bed, chairs, etc. of his house and went out to tell the people of the house near that he was going to his parents' village. At that time, the husband's son came home and did not see the princess. He heard from the people of the nearby houses that Nia had gone to the village of the gods and quickly pursued her and saw her on the way. When she saw that, she immediately gave birth. He asked, "Who is that Vallabha Purusha, O dear Lord?" And said. When the man said what to do now, because some child hit me, my parents were going to the village, and that action happened halfway. He went to the relative's house and asked what to do. Saying this, both of them went out again. After this, he returned to his house. The prince who was born in the path of the princes, so he was named after the princes of Jataka. Moreover, a day later, the princess was pregnant with a child. The daughter went to her parents' village in the same way as before and gave birth to children on the way. As those princes were also born on the way, the princes are Mahapanthaka princes. The younger sons were named Chulapanthaka princes. He nourished both the children and gradually grew up. Of them, Mahapanthaka named Kumara was the stepfather of the other princes and the other princes of Kelana. Grandfathers, ancestors say, "Who is he?" asked if we have any relatives. At that time, the mother used to say that, "Son, your relatives are not here. A person named Mahadhana Sitano from Rajagaha is your grandfather. They said that you have many relatives in that city." Hearing that, the princes asked why they should not go near those Nayans. The mother also stopped the children by saying that they did not go to you. As the princes were again saying that they were close to their ancestors, they said to the man, "These children are oppressing me as soon as I bend down. Who is when the parents saw us and cut the flesh?" 550-08. The children were taken along and the ancestors were greeted. Hearing that, Vallabha Purusha said, "I am unable to stand in front of your parents. Take your 2 children and show them your ancestors." They took the 2 children and went to Rajagaha and stayed in one of the halls of Nuvaradora, saying that there would be benefits to the 2 children. Hearing that, the daughter's parents thought that we who have been walking around Sasara have no son or daughter. He killed our 2 clans. Therefore, they committed great crimes. Therefore, they do not accept to be in front of our eyes. He said that both of them should leave the things we have given them and go and live in a happy place of their choice. Hearing that, the parents took the things sent and handed the two children over to the messengers who came near them. Children also grow up close to their ancestors. Among them, the Chula Panthaka princes are very young. Mahapanthaka princes along with their ancestors used to listen to Buddha's sermons. The princes, who were always listening to sermons, had no desire to sow. At that time, the princes said to their ancestors, "If you are married, will you become a monk?" Hearing this, the grandfather said, "Son, what will you say? Your prayer is better than the prayer of all the rains." The princes agreed that they will take Samarthyo to the monk, and went near the sage. Who was this by the sage? It is so when he asked, "O Lord, have you had a child?" "Lord, princes are my grandsons." He said, I will sow near you." When the Buddha heard this, he ordered a certain theatre to sow these princes. That Lord gave the princes another Panchaka Karmasthan and sowed them. He also learned many words of the Buddha and received Upashampada as if he was 20 years old. He became Rahat within a few days, starting with Upashampadas and doing meditation and worship. Mahapanthaka Sthavira spent days in meditation, who thought that he would accept to give this bliss to the Chulapanthaks. Then that Mahapanthaka Sthavira went to the house of the ancestor and said, "O Mahasita, if you are married, will I make the Chulapanthaks sow?" When he heard that, he said, "O Lord, sow up the Chulapanthaks." The Lord blessed the Chulapanthakas and took refuge in Dashashila. The novice of the Chula sect became a wise man. Paduman Yatya Kokanandang Subandhang, Patho Siya Pulla Mavita Gandhang Adhisak Pasa Virochmanan, Thapattama Divva Mevantlikye. This stanza was unable to be written in a month. At the time of the sage Kashyapa, a novice of Chulapantha, a certain wise monk laughed and mocked him while he was learning Pali. That wise monk did not take revenge from the insult of the wise monk. He did not make wild books. Due to the bad karma done in that previous year, the novice of this Chula sect lost his wisdom in the journey. Before the first wild book verse. 50 p.m. Chula, A. Setti Jatak. When you do the books, you don't know. A whole month passed for the novice of the Chula sect who was trying to write down this stanza. At that time Mahapanthaka Sthavira said, "Panthaka." He kicked out from the temple saying, "How did Kali Thipi, who was a Pravrajya Kritya, was able to get the head of the Pravrajya Kritya by writing one stanza out of Saramasa, which is not suitable for this order?" At the same time Mahapanthaka Sthavira distributes rice to all the Sangha. The people brought lots of scented smoke, flowers, lambs, etc., went to their mango garden and offered to the Buddha. The Lord said that there are about 500 monks. At that time, the Jivakas said, "Lord, 500 monks headed by Setti Buddha came and gave alms to my house." Worshippers, the Chulapanthakas did not find help in the sasana. He said, "I will tell the rest of the monks to accept your invitation." Hearing that, Chulapanthaka Samanera thought that Mahapanthaka Sthavira had tolerated the invitation of the monks until now and sent me away. Surely my son-in-law fell for me. If so, what is the use of the Shasana? I am a layman. Thinking that I will do the benedictions that have been given to me as a layman, I thought that I would lay down in the morning of the second day and left. Just as the Supreme Being looks at the world at dawn, he sees this fact and goes first to walk at the gate of Chulapanthakaya. As soon as he came out of the vale, he saw the Omniscient and approached and worshipped, saying, "Lord, Then the sage said to Chulapantaka, "Where is this time? Lord, my nephew kicked me out. Therefore, he announced that I will become a layman." Hearing that, Lord Chulapantaka, "Your kingdom is my possession. By what means did you, chosen by Banan, bring me closer? What are the benefits of staying with me?" He said that he will let me live near him. Then the Chulapanthaks were taken and sat on the Gandkili Nisa Mata in the Chulapanthaka, sitting facing east and rubbing this cloth, saying, "This cloth is Raja Haranag, Raja Haranag." He was working in the revived Buddhasana Mastaka. Chullai Pithaka looked at the bright sun and said to the cloth shop, "Raja Haranag, Raja Haranag." Thus, the Chulapanthaka went to Kilutua while he was in the middle of the cloth shop. Then, as he thought, "This cloth is very clean and pure because of this self," it left the previous recovery and went like this. Vidarshana said that the doctrines that derive from suffixes are definitely born and become nasna. Chulapanthakaya said that Sarvajna also rises to enlighten the mind of Chulapanthakas. The piece of cloth was tied up and stayed with the king, thus there are Raga kings inside him. They are
550 Jataka
550 Jatak books. He said these stanzas were the form that appeared to be in front of him except for a light. Raghu Raja Nava Pana Renu Vuchichviti Ragsit Ham Adhivichnam Rajati. Then King Vipajahitva Bhikhavo, Viharanti Te Vikta Rajassa Sasane. Deso Raja Thava Patha Renu Vuchati, Das Tham Adhivichnam Rajati. Then King Vipajahitva Bhikhavo, Viharti Te Vikta Rajassa Sasana. Moha Rajo Nava Pata Renu Vuvati, Muhasit Ham Adhivichnam Rajoti. Then King Vipajahitva Bhikhavo, Viharanti Te Vikta Rajassa Sasane. After reciting these stanzas, Satyavira of the Chula sect passed away along with the four sages. Tripitaka was mastered by his arrival at Chatupati Sambhida. It is as if Sthavyara of Chulapantha was born in the city where the previous king was born. When the forehead began to sweat, he wiped the forehead with a clean cloth. The cloak was torn. Those kings think that because of this body, the pure robe like this has become dirty except for his pure white quality. He remembered the sign of impermanence. Dharmas which derive from certainty are impermanent. From that fact, the kingship itself was confirmed for that lord. The living beings also sent the Dakshinadika to the omniscient. Buddha closed the other bowl asking if there were monks living in the temple at that time. At that time Mahapanthaka Satyavira asked if there were no monks in the Lord's temple. Sarvajna sent a man to know that there are no monks. As Chulapantaka Sasthaviriya thought at that time, my monk thought that there were no monks in the temple. Thinking that there are monks in the temple, he told him, he filled all the mango plantations with monks. Some monks knit robes. Some people hold robes. He created 1,000 bhikkhus without any difference from one another, saying that someone would write books. The man who went to look saw many monks in the temple and came back and told the living beings that they had taken all the mango garden monks and surrounded them. Then the sage said to that man, "The Buddha is calling the Chulapanthakas." Hearing this, the man went and said, "I am going to Chulapataka, I am going to Chulapanthaka." 1,000 mouths opened. At that time, that man went back to the Buddha, "Lord, Amama vi Chulapanthakayam." He announced that we will call Chulapanthakayam hai. After hearing this, the Buddha said that if someone said, "I am Chulapanthakaya," he would shake his hand. It is said that the remnants are interesting. Then the man did the same. About 1,000 monks attended. The Lord also increased the coldness with the man who had been called. The Supreme Lord called the living beings and said, "O living beings, take the bowl of the Chulapathakas and the Chulapathakas will preach the following dharma to you." The living ones did the same. At that time, Chulapantika Sthavira, who was the king of lions, Abhita Kesara, mounted the trident like a lion king and preached the following dharma. Sarvajna got up from Utasna and escorted the monks to the temple. When the working monks showed up to the temple, he got up from Ugasna and greeted the monk Sadhagaya who was in the house because of the stench. Chula, A. Setti Jatak. Vadra Bhikshu sent the Sangha and touched the stench scented with 4 things and made him a lion. Then, in the evening, the monks gathered at the Damsabha Mandapam from various places and sat down as if they were encircling a belt of rapalas and began to talk about the virtues of the Buddha. However, Mahapanthaka Sattviras do not know the study of Chulapantha Sattviras. They are ignorant people who have written one stanza in a book. He was expelled from the temple saying that he was a fool. Since the Supreme Being is the King of Dharma, he gave the fruit of arhatship along with the 4 forms of selfless devotion. Chatupati Sambhida ascended. Thus, the 3rd Pitaka was mastered. He said that the virtue of the Buddha is that the glory of the power of the Omniscient is very miraculous. At that time, when the sage heard the news of this story in the Damsabha Mandapa, "Today I will go there," said the Buddha. In the style of a Keshra Singh Raja, who came out from the fragrant-smelling chamber of Madhya Perava, the noble Buddhasana placed in the center of the decorated pavilion, in the style of a Keshra Singh Raja, spread the series of 6-colored Buddha rays, and bubbled the ocean Kukshi. He was sitting in the center of the throne like a shining mandal on the top of Yuganduru. As soon as the Lord Buddha came there, the Sangha of monks discussed his speech and did not scold him. With the mind of the Supreme Being, the Bhikkhu Parsha became very numerous. Not even a movement of the bhikshu's limbs or a sound of coughing or wheezing. During the entire life of Ayush, they did not scold me and did not even make a speech for the first time. Therefore, I will first create a story, thinking to the bhikkhus in a sweet Brahman voice, "Monks, what kind of story will you have now?" He inquired whether any story has failed you. At that time, that monk did not speak a specific story that was an obstacle to heavenly mokshadva, which we here are supremely different. He praised your virtues and called you warm. Having heard the monk's speech at that time, monks Chulapanthaks have now come to the greatness of dharma because of me. He said, backward, because of me, Kali, who came before me, came to the greatness of crops. At that time, a monk invited the blessed Lord Buddha to announce that purpose. The Blessed One said until recently. How is that? Back in the day when a king named Brahmadatta was reigning in Varanasi, we were born in a Mahabosatano caste and came of age and received positions of rank and were known as Chula Sitanos. Those Sitanos were wise. Vyaktaza knows all omens. One day those who were on their way to the royal service saw a dead mouse in the middle of the street and examined the Nakshatra Yoga and said, the wise sons of the caste asked if it would be possible to open this rat and trade it to feed the sons. A certain poor man heard the words of the Sita, thinking that he would not say it without knowing it. He opened his mouth and gave it to the god because of a cat in one of the fairs. He took sugarcane with that kakinika dose and drank it from a pot. He saw the Malikaras who were picking flowers from with a bouquet of flowers. Those garlands gave each bunch of flowers to this. After selling the flowers, the second day he took sugarcane and a basket of flowers from the price of the flowers and went to become flowers. In those days, the garlanders picked half a flower and gave it to you. In a few days, he became an 8-year-old from this fast. One more rainy day, many dry sticks and branches were blown away in the royal garden. The gardener also does not see a strategy to stop. At that time, the man went there and said to the gardener, "If these sticks and branches are my God, I will send all the sticks out of the garden." The gardener is good, friendly, open. Chulanatwasika went to the little boys' playground and, with a wink, sent all the little boys up and down and froze them at the garden door. At that time, the potter who was burying the king's house was walking in search of firewood for the king's house. On that day, the inhabitants of Chulanvashika brought 16 yellow pots and 500 pots. When it was a short time from trading there, I told the men who drew 500 grasses, keeping one pan, not far from the city gate, that I had this strategy. He said, "Friend, you have helped us a lot. What shall we do for you?" At that time, Chula Vishikya said, "I will tell you when my work comes." He made friends with land traders and sea traders. At that time, the chief man of the land traders said that a grain trader would bring 500 seeds to the country in a few days. Then he heard his words and said to the panners who brought grass today, "Give me a bundle of grass each." At that time, he promised to give everything good and brought 500 bundles of grass, but the door of his house was opened. The grass seller walked all over the city and did not find grass to sit on, and gave the resident of Chulatethe 1,000 kawanu to open the grass. A few days later, the merchant friend told him that ships are coming to the port. At that time, the Chulanet resident Purusha thought that I would benefit from this strategy, so he took a car full of all his entourage at 8 Kavanu and went to the West Kota village with a large Yasar entourage. If there are few traders from outside, he said that he would call me close to the mission with 3 guards. At that time, 100 traders from Varanasi came to Patunugama to buy goods. The people who are traders of goods will say that you will not get goods from us. He said that the advance was given by the great merchants who were sitting there. On hearing this, the merchants of Benares came near that Chula resident. The men under his command called Menwara 3 times from 3 guards and sent word that the merchants had arrived. "I will give 1,000 to the merchants of Chulana and buy the cargo with the man of Chulana." Class, Shailin. One of the Chullavishikas who took the Naipattu and gave 1,000 there to the good men who came to Varanasi after taking away these 2 lakhs of goods, who had prepared the ship and loaded the goods. Talbaut child, what did we receive tomorrow this year? 66.8 grams biode o 60, soil bag pointed domadum o tidata. This is a man to others ad bro susu md thaya who came of age betrayed themselves to daughters and all skin. He was entitled to the year. That man sat on the stove and swept the pages of the city. When the mind is enlightened and peaceful, he dies and goes to the next world. A Guru Samayak Sambuddha Sarvajna, a man in the land of Dharma, a heart and a fire, do they make 88 great vans Iskander by means of clay, etc. In this sermon of Rama, a story of the past is combined with the story of the present. He finished the Jataka and said, "At the same time, Chulanvashika Purusha are now Chulapattaka Stavaras. At the same time, I was born sitting in the hearth.